Hello, I'm Chris Clark, President of the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, and I want to welcome you to our weekly Resiliency Roundtable. We appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule as Georgia begins to continue to reopen to join us for a conversation that hopefully benefits you and your business. I want to give you a couple of reminders before we get started. Last week, our organization released a statement on the social injustices and inequalities and racism. We are now partnering with the U.S. Chamber and other chambers across the country for a June 25th Day of Dialogue on the inequality of opportunity. I hope you'll be able to join us for that discussion, and more will be released in the next few days. Also, I want to remind you that we are still in the middle of a pandemic. We had Dr. Toomey on just 2 weeks ago who warned us that as we start relaxing and reopening, people are going to think that it's okay just to go full steam, and that's not the case. We're still dealing with the rising cases across the country, and we're still averaging new cases in Georgia every day. And so wearing your face mask, continuing to practice good safety protocols, following the governor's instructions, extraordinarily important. We want to continue to encourage you to follow those. And you can learn the latest updates at gachamber.com/COVID-19, where we continue to update. Our latest update on there are the new flexibility legislations on PPP. I hope you'll go there and download that information. I also want to remind you that the Georgia General Assembly begins their session next week. Based upon current events, we are focused on two important issues. One is passage of the hate crime legislation that we've discussed on past calls, and the second is liability protection for businesses just like we have on a call today who are reopening but are worried about the risk of liability and frivolous lawsuits. So we want to get on with it today. We made the joke we should have had this at about 5 o'clock this afternoon. But the way work from home is going, I think we're all having cocktails earlier and earlier in the day. And we're proud of Georgia's brew scene. Our wine, our liquor, our beer has just grown so quickly over the last few years. But I do believe this industry is a microcosm of the larger entrepreneur spirit of the state of Georgia. They're dealing with issues. They're having to pivot just like all of your business. So I hope today that whether or not you enjoy the cocktails or not, that there are lessons to be learned here from our friends. And so we have three great panelists with us today. We have Renee Moss from Farmer's Daughters Vineyards and Tasting Room. She's a third-generation family farmer and the marketing machine behind Farmer's Daughters Vineyard. They're in Mitchell County with their vineyard, but they're also in Thomasville with their tasting room. And I'll just go ahead and put it out there that Bombshell's my favorite wine that they do. Next, we have Dr. Trip Morgan, who's founder and owner of Pretoria Fields, just up the road from Renee in Albany, Georgia. Trip hosts our Georgia Quail Hunt for the last several years. We have a great event there. And I know I won't get this right, but you're the owner of the Albany Vascular Specialist Center. So you're a heart doctor, but you got a heart for beer. And so we appreciate that. And Trip, honestly, Farmhouse Brewery is my favorite brew that you do, and I appreciate what you do there so much. And then also we have from Atlanta, Dennis Malcolm Byron, who I would say is AKA Ale Sharpton. I knew I was going to get it wrong. Ale Sharpton, listen, he is a world-renowned beer authority, award-winning journalist, blogger at alesharpton.com, event programmer, show host for Cruisin' for Bruisin', and he also is a co-founder of a creative agency, Always Open. And so we got three great folks here with great lessons. And what I'd love to do to get us started is I'll let Renee kick us off and just spend about 5 minutes telling us about kind of what happened. And there's my phone ringing in the background of this, forgive me. Tell us what happened through the last, 4 months with Farmer's Daughter, how you adapted, and kind of where you are now and how you look at moving forward. Renee, take it away.
Okay, can you hear me all right? All right. So well, it feels like the last few months have actually been about a year's worth of change for us. So just very quickly, the overview of what we did is as soon as about mid-March, when we needed to bring the kids home, we had to completely shuffle our schedules to figure out how to support all of our employees. We are a female-run business, and our tasting room is completely staffed by women. So we've got a lot of dynamic going on there with people who work in the school system, and also women who are trying to homeschool their kids and juggle their work hours. So that was a major kind of juggling thing, but we do that every time the seasons change. So that's kind of not really new for us, just a little bit sudden. The first thing that we did was put the curbside ordering system in place, and kind of develop a brand to go along with that to promote the fact that we were trying to sort of make lemonade from the lemons we were given. So just try to put a fun spin on it and make people feel comfortable and kind of laugh about how hard it was to be homeschooling and how we needed wine and we needed to make wine more accessible. So we put the curbside system in place. We developed a quarantine survival kit, which was basically whatever I have in my tasting room in excess. If you want to buy it, if it's cheese, if it's salami, if it's wine, beer, cocktail mixers, anything that I can provide for you that I have in excess, you meaning all of our customer base as well as our employees, all of it was basically just made available for quick curbside pickup or shipping, where laws permit for specific items. So that was a quick thing that we added. And then as things kind of progressed, we realized we were obviously not going to have the traffic to be able to support. We have about 7 employees in the tasting room, excluding ownership. There's no way that we could pay those folks. And I was very, very blessed because my staff, for the most part, they, I'd say of my 7, 5 have primary incomes, and I am just icing on the cake for income. So my folks are amazing. They're incredibly selfless people. They stepped up and said, we don't need the hours, give them to those who need the hours. And so I really just had 2 people to worry about. So I was really lucky there. That took a lot of pressure off of me. So we just put our heads down and worked as hard as we could to basically meet twice a day, management meetings twice a day, to try to figure out what are the rules of today and how are we going to get around that? How are we going to make people feel comfortable? So we basically had to reinvent ourselves every day. March traffic dropped 89% in the last 2 weeks of the month. So that was pretty painful for us. We have been incredibly blessed with huge growth every year. So we usually see 20 to 30% annual growth, and it's fairly consistent. So for us to have an 89% drop was pretty bad, obviously. So in addition to the curbsides and kind of making that available, once we were forced to close for dine-in, we kept retail open. We can do that because we kind of function like a liquor store and being a retail bottle shop, but also we're agriculture based and owned. We're actually owned by Hawthorne Farms. And that is our parent farming entity. So we stayed open for that reason as well. But obviously we had to make a lot of changes in terms of when are we allowing people in, when are we not allowing people in, how are we doing everything, right? Getting supplies, making sanitizer available to people. So obviously we were kind of rolling with the punches as they came to just keep people safe and also keep kind of fears down, kind of avoid any kind of hysteria about the situation when in fact we were actually quite terrified ourselves, to be honest, right? Because we didn't know what we were encountering. In April, we completely revamped how we ship and our entire shipping system. It was a huge step for us. And honestly, I just try to keep looking at the silver lining as it comes to us. Obviously, the pandemic has been a horrible thing for all of us to encounter, but I needed to go from shipping to 6 states to shipping nationwide. And it's a painful, painful thing to navigate in a business such as ours. And so we decided to go with Vino Shipper specifically for our needs. And we went to more than 40 states immediately overnight. And we saw a huge change in the amount of packages that we're shipping. And I've got data I'm happy to kind of share on that. But what basically happened for us between March and April is we went from a normal tasting room with 95% of our sales happening in the tasting room to having about, if we were lucky, 30% of our sales happening through the tasting room, which was pretty painful. And then we went to about 65% online and still a little bit of wholesale delivery. So it is a major shift for us pretty painful. And then by the time we got to April, we actually were split in quarters, which was really interesting. 25% shipping, 25% wholesale, 25% curbsides, and then 25% when we got to open up at the very tail end of April. We opened up for dining again and serving April 28th. So we were pretty much the unicorn, the very first to open up. People don't know what we are. They don't know if we're a bar or a restaurant. Winery tasting rooms are just, we're weird, right? We're different. And anybody who works in this business can identify with that. So we kind of tried to use that to our advantage in being able to just find a good niche where we could continue to operate and do it as safely as possible for people and just be accommodating. And then, so we saw a further shift. It's really interesting. When we got back to May, we actually, our sales are now slightly above where they would have been this time last year. So we've actually come up. We are, I think I saw that we are about 3% up from 2019, May 2019. Now that's not the 20 to 30% increases we've been seeing, but considering what we've just been through and how painful that was, I'm ecstatic with it. What we saw is that we went back to 82% of our sales being through the tasting room, about 9% shipping and 9% wholesale. And now curbsides and tasting room traffic are kind of all together. I've actually changed our system several times in terms of technology, just because this was the prime opportunity to embrace any kind of painful big changes like that. Without the tasting room traffic coming in and doing tastings, without the ability to take care of those people, we were actually able to put our heads down and go, all right, how can we streamline processes? How can we do this better? How can we make better cocktails? How can we just take better care of the customer? How can we innovate? What new systems can we put into place? And these are just things that we wouldn't have had the time and patience and bandwidth to be able to do if we hadn't been kind of temporarily paralyzed by the lack of traffic walking into the tasting room. The other thing I should mention is that people in Thomasville know me, and they know that I will come and put wine in their car any day, any time, night, weekend, as long as it's legal for me, I will put it in your car. I live a mile away, and people know me, and Thomasville is a great, amazing, small community. So I would get constant texts from people, Facebook messages. Hey, what are you doing? How can I safely get wine? And people know I'll do what it takes. And that's what we do as business owners, right? I'm not unique in that either. That's what we all do. So hopefully that gives you a good overview. Is that kind of it?
Yeah, that's great, Renee. And I do want to come back in a few minutes and talk about more specifically about your move into shipping and accelerating your innovation as well, because we've seen that with a lot of business sectors. But Tripp, tell us about what's happening and what's happened at Pretoria Fields.
Wow, that was great, Renee. We have a similar story, except for the fact that we did not stay open for the brewing business. We pivoted a little bit. And so to kind of describe that, we around St. Patrick's Day, which I think was when everything sort of went down big time, or at least it went down for us big time. Albany we were super hard hit as far as if you just look at how the country, what happened to everything, we had a bomb go off right here. So that was happening at the same time. We were trying to figure out, were we just going to close, or were we, was everybody going to go on, was going to be on short-term unemployment. And so we were looking at all of those options. And we actually have several different, we're a farmhouse brewery, which means we have a farm. We grow organic blueberries and blackberries, small grains, and we've actually been trying to develop that into an event space. We just hadn't quite gotten there yet. But so working in that, we've also gotten into, we have the first hemp extraction license for the state, where we got the first. I think several other people have gotten them now. And so with that in mind, I'm also a pharmacist. And so we had several of our compounding pharmacists were working on products for the CBD business. And lo and behold, they couldn't get hand sanitizers, so they had come up with their own formula for hand sanitizer. And then my wife sent me a text and said, have you seen what's going on with this? And it was somewhere up in the Northeast where a distillery had started making hand sanitizer. And I said, yeah, we can do that pretty easily. And so basically we shut down our production, and we took the isopropyl alcohol that we have that we clean things with, and used the WHO formula to make hand sanitizer. A quick aside on that. So to be able to do that, we had to get our licensure changed, and generally not changed, but amended. And generally to get something like that done, it takes weeks to months. Like literally it's send a piece of paper, and then they send you a piece of paper back, and send another piece of paper, and they send you a piece. But we called, told them what we wanted to do, and they walked us through the process, and it took a couple of hours. So kudos to Governor Kemp for that, because we were able to. It was obviously a need needed in the community. They saw it, and they cut through the bureaucratic nonsense, to say the least, and helped us get set up. So we were able to do that on a small scale. And then we opened up, and suddenly everything, and we worked like 24/7, let's say for a day and a half. And we thought we had a ton of product, and it was just all gone immediately. So, I mean, we gave some of it away to first responders. The hospital showed up and bought it. We had, whoa, did I just mess that up? Oh, okay, there we go. The hospital first responders, and then we start getting calls from bigger organizations actually wanting to buy hand sanitizer. So then it became like we were out of what we had. It became a logistics problem from just sourcing bottles, sourcing the different components, which, plastic comes from China. China was shut down. Logistics, just the country was beginning to shut down. So trying to get trucks from one place to another was difficult. And then finding the different components. So we ended up at a Cordial. There is a company called Synergy. Synergy actually turns the unused alcohol that the distributor has to take back in, that's quote spoiled, and they generally turn that back into ethanol as a fuel additive. So they also got their license changed so that we could use it as a hand sanitizer, basically. And so we went from brewing beer one day to using our tanks for hand sanitizer. And instead of, laying off 13 people, we hired an additional 10 people to put, basically to do everything by hand. We were doing everything from gallon jugs to 8-ounce bottles. And for a while we sold out of everything we had. I think we did tractor trailer loads of ethanol there for a while. We sold 3 tractor trailer loads just to the VA itself. We ended up getting FDA registered to be able to do hand sanitizer. But it's sort of interesting, things like that, as quickly as it came, it also went. So we actually have a ton of hand sanitizer on hand if anybody needs it out there. Yeah. So that's how we pivoted. I mean, to be honest, we're a smaller brewery. We were poised to have a really good second quarter when all of this happened, and our monthly beer barrelage was around 200 to 300 barrels. We were trying to get to the 400 barrel mark. And the other thing about that is a large percentage of what we were doing was on premise. On premise means like, restaurants, bars, etc. And so if we didn't have as many off-premise accounts as we did on-premise accounts, so it hurt us in the beer business because it didn't allow us to pivot or just to change our production to off-premise sales. Whereas a ton of the larger breweries actually have had very good last couple of months because people were drinking a lot of beer on the off-premise segment. So Overall, it was positive. We went from, everybody being sort of down to everybody being community driven. We had a purpose to be able, we had changed what we were doing, but it was something that was both keeping our employees working, as well as having them purpose driven to help the community. So, it was a silver lining to a black cloud for sure.
Well, Trip, I want to come back and talk about Albany in a few minutes with you again, but I do want to say I did a Zoom call like this 2 or 3 weeks ago in Kentucky to talk about reopening, and the guy on the call with me was from Woodford Reserve and talked about how even the whiskeys had switched over to do hand sanitizer as well, but they couldn't get the plastic bottles and they were delivering it in the Woodford bottles.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly right. The plastic was gone.
Yeah. All right. So we'll come back in a few minutes. Ale, thanks for joining us. I know you've got a different perspective because you're dealing with all the brewers all over the place. So I'm interested to see kind of what this has been like for you and what you've heard from your friends in the industry.
I want to appreciate you, Chris, for having me on, and congratulations to Trip and Renee for maintaining and weathering the storm. It's really hard, especially for an entrepreneur, to still stay in business and be successful. So good job with that, y'all. I loved beer for a long time because of the complexity of the flavors. My family being a lineage of chefs, so flavor is always big to me. And then the root of beer, and then how I finally realized that it was birthed in Africa, especially ales. It kind of just gave me something to really learn more about. And so leaving Cornell University, my dad got a job here in Atlanta, so that we moved here. And I was a marketing major in a hotel school. And so I wanted a way to really do something I enjoy. So although I was doing some management gigs and things of that sort, especially in the restaurant business, beer was always a part of my life. I didn't really like any other kinds of alcohol. I just loved the different styles and things of that sort. But then there was a challenge of when I moved to Atlanta, the laws were very archaic. And the limit for beer was 6%. That limits a lot, ABV. So that limits a lot of styles of beer. I know y'all can understand me with that. And so I really wanted to be part of the political process, so started writing and joining initiatives that were kind of help pushing the law to at least boost that, and then help more entrepreneurs and more people come in and open up their own breweries. And so eventually that did happen, but I was covering the scene from a long time ago. This was around 95 when I really started getting serious about being a writer, and then really deciding that beer was going to be a part of my life and covering it. And one of the things I loved about beer were the people who brewed it. They were a lot of down-to-earth people who put up their bootstraps and wanted to just make things work. And they were chemists. Breweries are chemists. They are culinary, they are biological, there's so many different things that you need to be a brewer, and a lot of people don't understand that, how hard it is to make that happen. So covering that and traveling the world under my name, being a beer writer, really opened my eyes to a lot of different things. And then I really got serious with it. My real name is Dennis Malcolm Byron, and it sounds a little like a law firm. And I wanted to brand myself. I'm a little more of a marketing person. I love clothes. I love all those kind of things. I wanted to incorporate all of that. I love music. I'm a hip hop fanatic. And so I wanted to bring those things together. No one at the time really had a name for themselves to do all the things that I was going to bring to the industry. So then I came with the name Ale Sharpton, and a lot of thinking about it. And his passion is my passion in terms of the brew industry. And so I did it with that, came with the name Ale Sharpton, and then I think it's a little more memorable than Dennis Malcolm Byron, although I'm happy to be named after my dad and Malcolm X, but still, at the end of the day, Ale Sharpton's a little more of a marketing, that has a little more of a standpoint. So then from there, I started really going around the world, literally, and meeting the people behind it. So then that came into me being a consultant, from design to coming up with names, to photography, to position it in different ways. And then social media came in, and I've done a really good job with that and got a lot more people in touch with me, and vice versa, and be able to reach out whenever I wanted to worldwide. So that's built the brand a lot. And so it's fun, yes, to talk about beer, taste it, of course, the conversations that come around it. But now with the pandemic and things that happened recently that we've been dealing with, I become more of a consultant on how to maintain. What do the people want to drink? What are people looking for? How are breweries going to survive this without having their tasting rooms open? What are people looking for with a little bit of money they have now that they're strapped for? They love beer, but what is the most popular styles to have? And so I'm getting these calls. So it's kind of my shift went into pandemic mode, where survival mode as well. What do we do? What do I write about? What do people want to read about? So then there's that. And now then the racial, how things are a little turbulent, not little, a lot turbulent, especially in our country. I'm becoming a consultant on that part, and being a Black male, I'm on that side, and I kind of can deliver to these breweries who are calling me up, and I'm talking more than 20 breweries at a time. What do we say? How do we approach this? So there's a lot of things besides staying afloat as a business to how do we tackle these race relations, because I've lived in a predominantly white atmosphere or experienced it throughout my life. Ithaca, I love Ithaca, New York, and it was a very peaceful time and unity, a lot of things going on, but it was predominantly white, and that's upstate New York. And then moving to Shaker Heights, which is about 50-50, but then a lot of my advanced classes that I've taken, I've been the only Black person or one of the few in that. And then to Cornell, Ivy League, again, the same situation. And then me being a Black beer authority in the beer business, again, I'm in that situation. So it's always been in my life to kind of be a voice, especially for my people. So it's really interesting what's happening now. And, you know, we got to tackle this, and hopefully there is a remedy besides staying afloat business-wise, staying afloat society-wise.
Hale, thank you. And I do want to come back in a few minutes and talk a little bit more about the inequality and kind of what the industry can do in that area, because I do think it's unique, because this is one of those industries where it brings people together.
Sure.
Got a unique opportunity to do it. But let's go back and Renee, I want to talk to you for a minute about, you know, you talked about going from shipping to 6 states to 40 states, and you accelerated that. You talked about new processing, new computer, new marketing. What we're hearing consistently from businesses is that they're taking this opportunity to accelerate the innovation that they were probably going to do over the next 4 to 5 to 6, 7 years. Mm-hmm. And so I'm curious, what was your original plan to get to 40 states? Was that a 2-year plan, a 3-year plan, a 4-year plan? And then talk a little bit more about how you kind of accelerated some of the other service sector and technology that you're doing.
Sure. Well, you know, what's funny is that we focus so heavily on our tasting room that I had no plan, zero plan to expand shipping. What we have seen is that shipping is such a complex, laborious, stressful, constantly changing thing when it involves alcohol. It's been honestly miserable to do it for 4 years. And there have been days when we have thought, let's just close our account entirely and not even bother shipping, because the amount of shipping that we do even around the holidays is so small compared to what we do in our tasting room, where we're interacting with people and they can taste the product and we can give them the full experience. Even with a great website, even with a really strong social media presence, we had zero interest in expanding our shipping, to be honest. And it's been a real source of stress for us. And no matter how much we try to be compliant and behave, I'm always getting a letter from some state where I have stepped in it and done the wrong thing because the laws are changing too often. So really, it was a blessing that this happened, sort of in that respect, because it forced us to realize that shipping was going to be here to stay. It was going to be a place where we needed to grow. And so now it's some additional ancillary income for us. One of the great things about our industry, even though we are really small and nobody really understands what we are, because we are so small and so young, particularly in the state of Georgia, where there are only about 50 wineries, we're kind of more of a tight-knit group as a result. And so I reached out to some folks through Georgia Wine Producers, which is our professional organization that helps us network, and said, you know, how are you shipping to all these states? How are you doing it? Tell me. And, I don't know that I was brave enough or had the patience to reach out and kind of make those decisions. Other people were really kind and honest and helpful with me and told me what their experience has been in using a resource like Vino Shipper, which is what we use, which I'm happy to tell anybody about on an individual basis as well, because they basically handle all of the painful aspects of what we do. Everything that was making us completely stressed out about the tiny bit of shipping we were doing is now so much easier, and we still make good money. And I was able to do some incentives like $19 flat rate shipping. And if somebody is shipping 6 bottles or more anywhere in the country, $19 flat rate shipping is a really good deal. So I was able to do that. We were able to do 10% off curbsides. We were able to work it out so people could place orders online and either pick them up or have them shipped, or, and we just varied whatever we were going to do for people. We also made the systems easier, right? So it used to be that you could go to my website and you could place an order for your curbsides and just mark that you wanted to pick it up. But so what we found is that now we have these 3 systems, right? We have tasting room register, and we have this shipping system, and then we have this weird thing in the middle here that's these curbsides. And it's just another task. It's another burden for the staff. So what I did is I integrated it back over into my register system by adding some new technology there as well. That honestly, we use ShopKeep as our point of sale system. And because of COVID, they were basically offering customers an opportunity to try new services that you haven't been previously paying for. That maybe none of us saw the benefit in. Try it free for a few months, see if you like it, and then when all this is over, if that ever happens, and things go back to the new normal, then we can figure out if we want to keep those services. So we basically took and completely shifted our curbside ordering system and made it something that's just easier on my staff. It pops up on the register, they get an alert. It's a more seamless process for them, but it also allows us the ability to get them tipped. And what we noticed is that people weren't tipping. People would come for their curbsides and they would prepay online, but they wouldn't tip because they didn't have an option for that, and the idea would escape them, and very rarely did someone have cash. Now, when people did have cash, they were pushing cash on me and saying, please take care of your employees. So, I mean, we have amazing customers, but what we found is that most people weren't tipping at all because they didn't have a way to do that. So now you place your order online at the curb, you can add the tip. So there were all these great little ways that we could innovate and help my staff get paid better, to be honest. So what I think is going to happen, and what I expect is going to happen, is that as our tasting room sales and the traffic that we see returns more to normal in this process, now we have these 2 sort of added areas of ancillary income, or these additional embellishments that we weren't counting on before as methods to take care of people. I mean, we've always put wine in your car because we feel like that's respectful. Any customer that comes in and buys wine, it's heavy. So if my staff can take it out to your car and put it in your trunk, we're happy to do that. But now we promote it. I mean, it's something that we've done, but now we do a lot more of it. And it's really helpful for the mamas that have a car full of kids that can't leave their kids, but want to do a pickup, and maybe traffic in Thomasville's a little weird and parking might be really busy depending on what day it is. So it's just all these kind of little convenience factors we've been able to add through technology that have made it less stressful on my staff. So now we're doing more. My staff has had an opportunity to learn to do more. They're using more technology. They're kind of ripping off the Band-Aid and figuring out how they can do more for me. And as a result, I'm rewarding them more. So it's kind of become this really beautiful kind of magical process that's spooling on itself in a positive way. And I can't look at it any other way, because it's too depressing to look at the pandemic in a negative manner. I have to see the good, right? And so my manager is an amazing, amazing person, and there are certain things she is sort of afraid to do that are outside her comfort zone, because she's human like everyone else, right? She's amazing at this, but she's afraid of that. And this has forced us to go, well, who else is going to do it, right? Let's roll up our sleeves. Let's dig in. Let's do it. If we screw it up, we're going to fix it. We're going to figure this out together. And I mean, we basically looked at each other and said, do you trust me? Yes. Do you trust me? Yes. All right. Well, take my hand. We're going to get through this. I'm not going anywhere. This business is not going to fold. I'm going to take care of you. Let's rip off all the Band-Aids. And we did. So. I think the services are here to stay. I think people will continue to expect curbside service. They'll expect the conveniences that we're giving them now. And they'll expect the opportunities to tip us. People are making reservations now that didn't respect what we were doing enough to reserve in advance. And now they make a reservation. They dedicate their time to us. They don't rush us through the tasting process and say, well, I got a reservation down the street. Can you hurry it up? Now they come and they stay longer, and it's just quality. I feel like we've developed more quality, and we're having more quality interactions. Staff feels amazing. They have more knowledge. They're dropping that knowledge all over the place. So it's a positive. I see it as positive.
So you use this as an opportunity to pivot to some new sectors, but also to go deeper in those relationships with your team members and your customers too. So
absolutely. I mean, these are all things we needed to do. Right. But when were we going to have a timeout to be able to work on them? Never. So it was a horrible situation, but we just try to use it as a positive so everybody could grow. And now I think we actually have even more unity. So one of the things I was most afraid of is we've got this awesome team, and they love each other and they support each other and they have this great mojo as a team. And then COVID happens, and I'm like, we're the best team we've ever had in 4 years, and now we're going to lose all this momentum, and we're going to lose branding momentum. We're going to use staff momentum. But what's happened is it's circling back. And I think people appreciate that we do go the extra mile. We do the extra measures to keep them safe. We have the extra services. They're not going to go anywhere. We're constantly asking what we can do to make the experience better. People appreciate that. It says something to people that we weren't afraid. We weren't blind. We didn't act like this is not something to be afraid of, but, I think we were smart and resourceful and consistent, and we communicated well, and that was important. But those things also affected my staff and how they feel about what they're a part of and the things that they can contribute to that.
Right. That's awesome, Renee. Thank you. Let's go back to you for a minute. You mentioned a little while ago, so Albany, and as you know, the Georgia Chamber, we spent a lot of time in Albany, both with the quail hunt and working with Barbara and the team down there, and with your commissioner, and we know that you guys really were the first hot spot in Georgia. Tell us, how's the community responded? I know you guys played an important role in bringing the community together, and I know you made a lot of progress. How's Albany and the region doing now with the virus, and what are you seeing from your peers and your colleagues around town?
Well, the good news is first in, first out. So we don't have any, I think yesterday we didn't have any cases at the hospital right now. The community itself, although we've been hit hard, we seem to have come through it and be kind of post-COVID right now. So all the restaurants, everybody's getting back. Although, it was it's interesting to look at things that were going on, I guess, in the north, in areas where, while we were having a disaster, other places, although they were locked down, they really hadn't experienced anything. And so, it was easy for us to understand it was easy for us and the people here to understand the severity of it, because our entire hospital was basically overrun by it. So it wasn't it was very much for real. And I think we were just a couple of weeks behind everybody else as far as and maybe not a couple, maybe 3 or 4 weeks behind everybody else. But now things are doing good. We actually have not reopened the tap room quite yet. We weren't sure exactly what to do with the tap room. Were we a bar? Were we that? So what we decided to do was remodel. So we remodeled the inside. We did some remodeling on the outside, and hopefully we're going to reopen for Father's Day weekend. So everybody mark that on their calendar and come on down, because we redid our outside as well as the inside. We want to use what happened with all of this, and with our hand sanitizer, we were able to brand ourselves in areas where we just hadn't been before. I mean, this was hopefully, and I think will be a really good opportunity for us as far as name recognition, and to be able to go back into places on off-premise accounts and be able to get our to be able to attack those accounts in a different way, in a different light. So I guess that's where this, and another positive thing is really we opened some other doors to ourselves that we didn't have before, and really looking to bring the message of organic agriculture, sustainable farming, appropriate use of natural resources, which is really what we sell are those things. So when we talk to our marketing people, our sales guys about our beer, we're trying to sell the idea of organic farming and sustainable farming through every glass that we put out in process. And so, but that's a really hard message to get out there. Think it'd be easy. I mean, you can create the greatest product in the world, but if nobody talks about it, then nobody knows about it. Then it just sits on a shelf somewhere. So I think one of the things this has allowed us to do is really get our message out about those things, and is already helping us to open doors where we weren't before. So before we actually open our tap room, we're having an event this weekend, Berries and Brews. I can't remember. I think it was you said you liked our Berry Goza,
right.
And so this was one of our, strange, all of the disasters going on. We had a great farming year. Like as far as production in the field goes, our blueberries and blackberries, we probably had the best we've had in the last 5 years. The cold didn't get us, and we had just enough rain. And so we were able to save enough berries to be able to make our Berry Goza. And we're also having a U-Pick event this weekend. So before we open the tap room up, we're going to have an event out on the farm, food, bands, all the works. So if people can make it to that. And I guess last but not least, we do a little non-traditional marketing. I have a podcast called No Dam's Given. Our Shoalie beer, which is our IPA, we actually give 2% back to the river keepers. It's named after the shoal bass, and for shoal bass to be able to reproduce, they have to have a long segment of undammed river. So thus the podcast, No Dam's Given. But yeah. So.
Hey, and as a fly fisherman who likes to fly fish for shoal bass, thank you for doing that too, Trip. That means a huge deal.
No doubt.
One more question for you, Trip, before I go to Elle. You mentioned having the event, and I know you do a lot of events in the facility there. I know you're not open yet, but have people started to call back now and say, hey, I need a spot for August or for October yet? Have you had any of that business start coming back yet? Or
end of July and August, I think, we've got some. I mean, we were booked solid, so that was a huge revenue loss. Shutting the tap room down and not doing events was a huge revenue loss for us just in general. People are still a little skittish, especially here, about getting large crowds together. So, end of July, I think we've started to have a few, definitely in August.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Elle, I want to shift gears. You brought this up a minute ago, and I want to go back to it because it's top of mind, and it needs to continue to be top of mind for all of us. But I'm curious, there are lots of businesses trying to figure out, how do I engage now in this new national discussion on racial equality? What do you recommend for wineries and breweries to support this national conversation? I mean, what are you advising people, those people listening today, they're going to listen to us when we rebroadcast? What do you say to them? How do they engage, either the brewery sector or just small businesses in general? And I know that's a loaded question. It might be a little unfair, but I think since you brought it up a minute ago, I'm gonna.
Yeah, I brought it up on person because it's truly a very important situation that's going on right now, and it needs to be addressed. And a lot of the breweries, and not just breweries, a lot of other industries as well have reached out to me. I have some play in the auto industry and a couple other things that I write about. I'm more lifestyle, but beer is my concentration. I know one of the issues is not saying anything could be detrimental, could be very weird. It's like an analogy of watching a game. And if you're on the sidelines and not having any part of the game itself, then you're just seen as not being a player. And a lot of these things right now that are going on, at least saying something or showing you care instead of not saying anything shows you're happy with what's going on. And I'm not saying to force, you got to feel it, but at least ask questions, create dialogue. And that's one of the great things that beer does, is it brings up conversation. And And, they call beer and all kind of libations, social lubricants, and it's true. But at the same time, not saying anything could be very, very weird. Or at least putting up some type of program or having something where you're not saying something, but you are kind of helping by maybe helping with foundations or initiatives or organizations that are helping to promote equality through donation of any sort. Money is always good, but it's about maybe even investing in your own neighborhoods to know if your neighbors are all white, then you reach out a little more. But the Black population, especially, and this is all minorities, but Black populations are it's growing in terms of appreciation for beer. There are more festivals. There's Fresh Fest. There's all these ones that are kind of promoting people to brew beer that are African American or Latinx or whatever the case is that you have, Asian. So there is a market, but it's not just a market. It's not about sales. It's about people. And knowing that to have a better society is kind of reach out and ask the questions. Okay, so some people are like, hey, I don't know what to say, so I'm not gonna say anything. I won't say anything wrong. Well, how do you remedy that? You ask, you create dialogue, conversation through consultation. I've been doing a lot of consultation pro bono, but again, I have to eat down the line, and it's gonna have to be a little more of a formal kind of a situation where I can work with other corporations or breweries or whatever the case is. But my point is that I'm passionate to at least teach and help them and understand that it's not a white only. There's no white only signs on breweries either. Everyone's welcome to have beer, but at the same time, you got to know and serve all your people, everybody, and respect what's going on. And the big thing right now is inequality. I mean, what is the problem with helping that to get rid of that? What is wrong with that? Why would you hold back on that? And if you do hold back or not say anything, or whatever the case is, then you're not helping the issue. You're not helping solve the problem. So that's one of the things I do talk about with them. Staying silent or not doing anything shows you're very happy the way things are.
Il, is there a brewer out there or a winery or someone that you're saying these guys are doing it right in this unique moment?
It's an ongoing thing. It's you can do it right one time. I've reached out to a lot of people, but it's an ongoing thing. And just thinking that, the beer industry is very trendy. There's certain styles that are hot right now. There's certain packaging that's going on. It's more than that. This is a marathon, y'all. This is not something you could change with making one beer and donating 10% of your proceeds to. This is something that you show willingness to treat all your people, customers, employees, vendors who you're working with, give everybody an opportunity. That's what deserves a lot of the attention. That's going to get a lot of my attention. As far as naming breweries, yes, there are a lot of reached out. There are minority-owned breweries that are there. Down home, I'm working with. Sweetwater's reached out to me. Creature Comforts really has been very vocal in asking me what to do. Liquor brands as well. So the question, just ask me what's going on, what should I do? There are Asian brew pubs like Hopsticks, Bavana, that's going on right now in Raleigh. So there are a lot of them. I'm not gonna call it the ones that aren't doing anything yet, but for right now, really understanding that there's an issue is really big right now.
Well, listen, I appreciate it. You guys, it's great advice, Il, and we appreciate it so much. Renee, Tripp, you guys for what you're doing. Thank you down in Southwest Georgia. We appreciate the success. Can't wait to be back with both of you and both of your facilities soon when we're back on the road. If you are joining us late on this, it'll be reposted on our website at gachamber.com/COVID-19, as well as our friends at GPB and over on GNN. Encourage you to continue to follow the Georgia Chamber on our social media, particularly for the next 2 weeks as the Georgia General Assembly goes back in, and we work with them on the issues that you need for long-term recovery, as well as resiliency, as well as how we start healing and moving forward and passing a hate crime bill in the state of Georgia. But continue to practice safety. I don't care what your business does. We're all in the health and safety business now. And come to our website for more resources, and hopefully by the end of the week or next week, we'll have even more resources for you out there to train your employees and keep them safe and keep your customers safe. So guys, Thank you for being with us. Thank y'all for joining us all today, and may God continue to bless our great state. Thanks so much.